Come on! Come on!
Okay, now let's talk about Lily Orchard again. Recently she's been in the news because she's been copyright striking a bunch of creators that have made it a habit to criticize her, claiming they were indeed stealing content from her. The only slight problem here is they're not really.
Before you have the basic badge, it's actually blocked off by Team Plasma grunts who give some of the most pitifully generic villain dialogue of all time. We are in the right! Everyone else is wrong! If you don't think the same way we think, we'll use all our power to eliminate you! I'm sorry, nobody talks like this. Even people who are so unbelievably narcissistic that they can't handle being disagreed with won't just say that out loud. But
Lily, they're a cult. Cults say weird things, okay? And also, this is Pokemon. None of the dialogue is going to be Shakespearean. It's going to be very on the nose. It's a kid's game, Lily. These are caveats you gotta accept, because a kid may not pick up on the nuance that a 30-year-old will pick up on. It is goofy. Have fun with it. Like, it's silly. It is goofy as anything, but like, laugh with it.
And speaking for myself, this dialogue isn't a comment on Team Plasma, it's a comment on Junichi Masuda, the game's director. Eventually, I chased down the Plasma.
Lily, this isn't even what it says in Japanese. Why would the English translated version reflect on the director who is not involved with the writing? Like, yeah, he oversaw the writing, sure, but like, he was also overseeing the gameplay, the mechanics, the design. There were many people involved with this.
Like, mostly it's just reaction to them, and even then, most of the problems they had with this is not because they were too mean or starky, but because Lily was again ignoring basic facts about the media at large, or trying to push her own subjective opinion as basic fact. Like, the two ones in question are about the Delicious in Dungeon anime and the Pokemon Generation games. And originally, I was just going to do a whole rundown of both of the videos, step by step, to show you all the flaws with them. But I'm just going to be honest, there's no real point in doing that. For one, other people have already done this, besides the two people in question that are getting copyright striked. And again, even if you know the basics about some of these shows or games, you can easily figure out for yourself where Lily starts lying or forcing her own agenda. Like, no joke, in the Delicious in Dungeon one, she just completely ignores the plot completely, as most of the criticism just revolve around them going too slow and not trying to rescue Lao's sister in time. And she specifically points out Lao's as a terrible brother because he doesn't seem to care about his sister.
Most of the show's tonal issues actually come from the main character, Laios, who reacts to his sister needing to be rescued like Eeyore's resigning himself to the day's misfortune, but the moment an edible monster shows up, it's like someone's whacked him in the tailbone with a cattle prod.
Saving my poor sister is the only thing on my mind.
Sure it is.
There's a profound absence of tension with Laios, given the weight of the situation he and the group have found themselves in. Sure, they can't just no-clip through the dungeon floors and have to take the long way down where Fallon is, but the entire time he's on horse tranquilizers, unless the subject ends up being monsters. And there's no way around it, this makes him come off like a fucking asshole. Half the content surrounding him in both the show and the comic is other characters constantly being incensed by his insensitivity, and his near-constant sidetracks back to monsters. I got the impression early on that Laios cares more about monsters than about people, and that impression was right because it's later established that because his village was a pack of shitheads to him and his sister, he decided the sensible level-headed thing to do was to leave the backwards, obsolete rural communities behind and venture off into the civilized world of the urban. He became a jaded misanthrope who, aside from his sibling, has a dim view of people.
Kind of taking out the fact that he was one of the first ones that wanted to drive back into the dungeon to get her and needed to be stopped because they didn't have the supplies or equipment for it. In fact, that's actually kind of the main point that she keeps missing. The reason they're going slow is because they need the supplies and equipment to make it through the dungeon. Otherwise, they're just going to lose like last time. That's actually stated at the beginning, as well as a couple times throughout the rest of the anime. Lily just kind of glosses over that completely and even makes up some other points that are completely backwards. Like saying the god lion is actually smacking some sense into Laos when in reality he's gaslighting him, as the god is evil. She either completely missed that, or is again taking that out of context to make him look worse.
If that wasn't enough, Laios gets the cosmic hammer coming down on him so many times you'd swear he was any woman in a Blizzard game. Every character is at some point telling him to fuck off and rejoin us all in reality. Deity-like creatures call him out for fantasizing about monsters destroying his entire village, and even his ending involves him just getting fucked. Hey, you hate people and love monsters? Well, now you're the king of people, the dungeon's gone, and monsters are repelled from you. Eat shit, dickhead. This is the part where I end up being vindicated over every bitchy little weeb currently infesting the intellectual void that is Twitter, because Laios consistently refuses to be a better person, and as punishment, he just takes L for the rest of time.
She also apparently made fun of autistic people at some point, and apparently had to redo the video, which, yeah, I kind of believe because there's this one line that seems to come out of nowhere.
I've heard some people suggest that Laios might be autistic. I'm not sure I'd agree with that, because the story makes it clear his monster obsession and his misanthropy are the direct result of growing up in an ignorant backwater hellhole, and regressing so much into his monster obsession he refuses to let go of his adolescent view of humanity, or to accept that people are complicated and maybe your dipshit hometown sucked, but sometimes that's life, loser. And regressing so much into his monster obsession he refuses to let go of his adolescent view of humanity.
Which is also not true, because he grows up in the army. He literally enrolls in the army. This is also covered already in the anime. He leaves the village to grow as a person, but he keeps being ostracized because he doesn't understand how to socialize. He is someone that is so different from everyone else that he will never find a place among other people. That is a very, very clear and direct allegory for autism.
And so trying to claim he's autistic coded smacks to me of trying to underwrite all of that. Look, there's an intersection between neurodivergence and the systemic abuse neurodivergent people experience as children that contributes greatly to the whole spectrum part of the autism spectrum. It's not just that autism affects everyone in different ways. Every autistic person has different opinions and beliefs on how to manage it formed by their experiences. Some autistic people grow up thinking neurotypical social conventions are complete horseshit and think, why even bother learning these? They're fucking stupid and we should do away with them. So struggling with social cues isn't even a problem they feel they need to work on at all. Autistic people have all the same nuanced beliefs on their experiences that you primitive neurotypicals do, and this often affects how we approach our autism and how we decide to nurture ourselves. Autism is a spectrum, but it's a spectrum for reasons both psychological and sociological. And the problem I have is that an autistic person's disposition is often attributed solely to their autism and not to anything else that informs your personality. And not just by neurotypical people and fucking autism moms, autistic people do this as well. A neurotypical person is allowed to be a petulant little antisocial asshole, but if an autistic person does the same thing, people often go, well, that's the tism for ya. Laios' autistic traits are hyperfixating on monsters and looking at social cues and going, huh, I wonder who that's for, but he's also such a nihilistic misanthrope that he doesn't really care to address or consider either of those things, which compounds both of those issues, not least of which being that he's reached the age of 26, still clinging onto an idea about humanity born from being a miserable teenager in an ignorant backwater hellhole. It's this idea that autism is some kind of personality override rather than a single part of a greater whole that informs your personality that I've always found deeply troubling. You have to be the kind of person who thinks checking an autistic person for being rude and inconsiderate is inherently ableist, and I've never met anyone who sincerely believes that who wasn't the one getting checked and was upset about it.
See, that's very specific, and she doesn't really say who those people are, just that those are people out there saying this. Like, that is a giant red flag if you can't do that. It's a straw man fallacy. People weren't upset that she checked an autistic person, but blamed his autism for how he acted in her first video, thinking he should just stop being autistic.
Checking an autistic person for being rude and inconsiderate is inherently ableist.
Again, people are calling her ableist for this, for her original review, because she was just ended up equating Laios to real life autistic people that related to him and being like, if you act like this as an autistic person, you're a bad person, and just ripping into them. And that's why, like, I really took issue and called her ableist, because it was like a really, really gross stance to take and was such an ad hominem attack. Like, she just clearly wanted to be mad about this, you know? And fine, again, it's her opinion, but the fact that she's treating it as the heart of the series and the only true real interpretation of Laios is so bad. And then just being like, oh, if like saying it's able to check someone for being rude, like that's not the issue that people had. That's exactly what I talked about in my initial video, but whatever.
She also left out many things his obsession helped Laios do, like knowing how to save his sister or dealing with numerous monsters in the dungeon. or just outright leave out the character actions that go against her narrative, like him immediately going to save his sister. Lily just doesn't like Laos because she personally doesn't empathize with him, and thinks he should just learn to act a different way. That's not a one-off either. In and Silver got the same treatment in her Pokemon video. In is a character that was raised in a cult to believe that certain outlandish things about the world of Pokemon, and throughout the game, the player helps him realize that he was lied to. Lily, though, treats him like he's the problem, and should just have known that he was being crazy the whole time, just like you saw in the Plasma clip earlier. That's from the same section as In is. Lily doesn't even bother going into Silver's backstory because she thinks he's the worst rival in Pokemon, and didn't want him to have a redemption arc. Instead, just choosing to outright insult the people that like him, which Lily thinks is because he's emo and nothing else. Certainly not the backstory she refused to look at.
Gen 2's rival just shows up, rants about his strongman rhetoric, loses to you, and then overcompensates. And he never gets any better unless you go way too far out of your way to find the special events with him, which I never did because I don't care about his redemption arc. He's just this obnoxious burden every time he shows up, and I resent the rest of the fanbase for fixating on him and acting like he was the best rival just because he was broody and emo. That's the only reason you like this guy, because he was emo, and that's what you think good writing is. Silver and Hop are fundamentally the same character, it's just that one of them is superficially emo and the other isn't. Fuck Silver.
What you see as pathetic, I see as compelling. And again, redemption is interesting. Yeah, you didn't care about the redemption. That does not mean it's not written into the game. Just because you didn't care about it doesn't mean it's not in the narrative. Like, that's the thing. Silver is someone who is in pain. He's been abandoned by his father, who again, Team Rocket, is abandoned by their leader, and it happens to be the same person. That component is very compelling.
Lily literally can't empathize nor wants to understand people that don't immediately think like what she thinks is normal, even if they are victims of circumstances outside of their control, to a certain point where she'll even leave out huge chunks of the story to make them look worse than they actually are. Which is kind of ironic since Lily is known for playing the abuse card and claim other people are out to bully her for not conforming to the status quo. Like, no joke, in my last video, I actually had a clip of her blaming her past relationship for the worst thing she said in the Steven Universe video.
I was being severely abused by my partner at the time, and it made me an unpleasant person to be around. No excuse for that. I wasn't in a good place mentally, and I'm in a better place mentally now, and I'm with someone else who makes me very happy. While I don't think Sugar is a talented creator, I would apologize for the sheer barrage of personal attacks if I could. I was taking out my anger at many other things onto this project that I'd been working on for a while, and like I said, every video was like this.
And just so we're clear, she just repeated the same problems in the next Steven Universe video. That was like part of this video.
And haven't stopped having a migraine since. The thing is, like everything ever made, it hasn't aged well. Ask any artist if they like looking at their old work. Time, context, the fact that Steven Universe is over now, and 5 years of growth as a person and critic has reflected poorly on that old video. I have admitted—
Hey guys, does anyone really think that Lily Orchard has had 5 years of growth as a person? Because I'm pressing X to doubt over here. Again, I don't know the lore of this person as well as some other, but I've heard things. I've heard things that are not good.
Many instances tried to update it to more modern standards with better critique, which none of you terminally outraged motherfuckers bothered to watch. So when I see people still passing it around trying to refute—
Why aren't you outraged at my videos, Steven Universe fans? I totally triggered you with the first one. Except you didn't, because most of your points were, like, either, like, provably incorrect, or were just, like, the most bad faith interpretation you could possibly muster of a scene possible, or was just you being unable to follow the themes and plot lines in a children's show. No fault but yours.
the plot and don't advance their own character, and you're about ready to write the show off completely, they throw something like Bubbled at you. Bubbled is one of the best episodes of the entire show. The premise is that Steven was ejected into space last episode, and he's protecting himself from the vacuum with his defensive bubble, and it's just him and one of the Ruby soldiers, and all they can do is talk, and so that's exactly what they do. It's a quiet episode with a lot of really discordant music that does a lot to sell just how big and empty space is. How even if you manage to survive, you'd be adrift. You'd be completely and utterly alone, forever. And Steven's trapped with someone who wants him dead and doesn't know it yet. Not only is this the first time Steven hasn't been able to talk someone down, he's also on—
What do you mean he doesn't know it yet? They fought. This is how they ended up in space in the first place. They just fought the Rubies, right? I'm pretty sure. Didn't they all get ejected off the moon base? Wasn't that what happened? So I'm pretty sure he knows Eyeball wants him dead. Again, cannot follow the plot of a children's show.
Even outside that immediate family, so to speak, the Diamonds are completely hated. Even after their redemption, not a single character has a kind thing to say about them. Nobody in the cast wanted this reconciliation, so why did we do this? This isn't even a thematic issue. Making the characters involved invested in the thing you want them to do is like writing 101. We go from—
But wait, nobody says nice things about the— I mean, there are gems hanging out with Blue Diamond and her clouds, and White says she's going around to various, you know, former colonies and letting Gems try out her new reversal powers, and there's Gems taking tours of the old palace, and they all seem pretty chill with the Diamonds. I mean, and Spinel, of course, is their new baby that they dote on, and what are you talking about?
The people they want to exterminate are branded with stars. And then suddenly the show just fucking 180s and goes—
Oh, God. Hang on. Did you just say what I think you fucking just said? Holy shit.
Do genocide, they hate non-stated relationships, they don't respect people's identities, all the people they want to exterminate are branded with stars. And then—
Okay, there is no word stronger. There's no word strong enough than retarded for what Lily just said. That is just fundamentally mentally challenged. That is brain damage levels of takes. You might as well just be babbling nonsense words and smearing applesauce on the wall. Did you just try to say the crystal gems all wear stars because they're being oppressed like the Jews? In a show made by a Jewish woman, Rebecca Sugar said the reason they picked the star as a symbol is because it's kind of gender neutral, so both girls and boys could relate to it and want to wear it. So I think they actually considered making it a heart at some point.
And this is just the same thing with her own copyright abuse right now. Lily doesn't want to confront her own problems or biases, she wants to shift blame and punish people that don't agree with her or prove her wrong. Just like the characters she doesn't understand and hates, except, you know, these are actually real and not made up. She might just actually be in denial about herself. It's so aggravating. Like, she's just really bad at understanding media at large, and now she's trying to silence people that point that out. She's not trying to reason with them or talk to them, she's just trying to make them shut up. And that should be the focus of this video, not me going out and pointing out all the problems everybody else already has, but just pointing out the fact that Lily really can't take criticism fairly, or give out fair criticism. If you want to know more about those two videos, I suggest just watch the channels or videos I'm showing on screen, because they honestly put the work into their videos that Lily didn't. And that's just about everything I have to say on this. Lily is abusing copyright, she really stinks at criticism, c'est la vie. So until next time, this is the Compare Contrast channel, and good day.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.